Hey everybody, it's Rob. It wouldn't take a deep space voyage for me to tell you how much I appreciate you, and that's why this week we're going to be talking about Ad Astra. Thank you guys for coming along on yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Reviews. Now this is going to be a very interesting review. You'll find out why later on. But I'm going to be talking about Ad Astra this time around, and I have to say I was really excited to see this movie. And you wouldn't know that by the fact that I waited about 6 weeks to see it. I think I waited right up until the point that it was about to leave theaters. In fact, if I hadn't caught the 7:15 show that I did, I might not have been able to see it. A lot of new movies are opening up this coming weekend as I'm recording it. And I think one of those movies would have probably bumped it out of theaters. And yet, the theater that I was in was completely packed. There wasn't really any available seats. In fact, a friend of the show, Corey and Roberto, I wasn't actually able to sit with them. I had to sit one row behind them, even though my ticket was the row in front of them, and they took my seat so that they could sit together. My feelings aren't hurt. But you would think that with that kind of response, even if it was a small theater, that they'd want to keep it around for a little longer. And yet it just seems to be slowly working its way out of theaters. In fact, I think if you go check right now, you might have a hard time finding Ad Astra in a theater near you. Now, I might have been a lawyer in a previous life, never been a doctor, and I wasn't raised Catholic. So Latin is not a first language for me. I know a couple of things, prima facie, subpoena. That might be all of them. That's disappointing for as much money as I paid for legal education. Nonetheless, I don't know a lot of Latin, but I can tell you that Ad Astra means to the stars. It's part of a phrase, Ad Astra aspera, which just means through hardship to the stars. I think that's what they were channeling when they were talking about this movie, when they were writing this movie, and probably what the director was thinking about when he was making this movie. Ad Astra was, of course, directed by James Gray, written by James Gray, along with Ethan Gross, starring Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, Ruth Negga, Donald Sutherland, and a supporting cast that really seemed like a professional group of actors, even though I'm not sure that I've seen any of them on anything before. Now, I've been really torn when I was thinking about this review and what I was going to say. Number one, it's probably not going to influence you to go see the movie or not. It's probably out of theaters. You're probably not going to be able to go and see it. And yeah, it might be available on streaming. Certainly it's probably going to be available at some point on some format. Maybe you'll have to pay for it. Maybe you won't. But it's probably not going to be that much that it would discourage you what I say or don't say. Should I express my true feelings about this movie, or should I maybe go with more of the popular opinion? Now, the first thing that I expressed after walking out of the theater was, oh my God, this movie could have been called Rob in Space. Little side note for you guys, I actually wanted to be an astronaut for a very, very long time. I wanted to go to space camp. I wanted to go on the space shuttle. I wanted to do all of that. It turns out I have really, really terrible vision, amongst many other genetic flaws. I am not planning on procreating. My sister has had a lovely little boy who I hope will pass on all the genetics that I will ever need to pass on. I will teach him and train him, and if she has any other kids, I will love them so much, but I do not want children of my own. I prefer trips to children, frankly. The least of all those reasons is the genetic flaws that, of course, I know that I have. And one of those is clearly evident and spoken about in no uncertain terms by Brad Pitt's character, Roy Clifford, in this movie. Now, I think one of the tragedies of my life, as pointed out by Ad Astra, is that I always say I was born 100 years too late or 100 years too early, and in some cases maybe even 10 years too late or 10 years too early. And by that, of course, I mean that everything is left here to be explored has been explored. If I had been born 100 years ago, I think that I would have gone out west and made myself a fortune, or made my own way in the world at least. And if I had been born 100 years from now, I probably could have done the same thing out there. But we are not at the point of commercial space travel yet, even though they are in the period of Ad Astra. I think one of the biggest regrets, even though, can you really call it a regret if it's not under your control? I think one of my biggest regrets will be that I lived during this period and I had my youth during this period, and that we've seemed to have just ground to a halt when it comes to all of those things. I wasn't fit enough to go into space in a period where it was really hard to get into space, and I didn't live long enough to get into space in the period where it was kind of easy to get into space. And that may be the biggest tragedy of my life. Hashtag white people problems, right? But it was really weird to me to hear my own thoughts, my own sentiments coming out of Roy Clifford's mouth during most of that movie. And, I really want to go find the script. I don't know if Brad Pitt ad-libbed those. James Gray was a writer, obviously, on the script, so perhaps they worked together on set and filled in some of those things. But I had a visceral, emotional response to some of the things that he was saying, and him doing the psych reviews. There's just a lot that happens that really kind of spoke to me, and I don't know, it became a little hard to handle at some point. Well, let's do this. I'm going to say, I want to get into some spoilers. Listen, if you want to stick around for it, this movie is one of those that maybe the spoilers don't even matter, honestly. You're either going to see it or you're not. But if you want to avoid spoilers, you should look down at the next little section down below and just skip forward, and you're going to want to do that right now. So here's the thing. I didn't want to give too much away there while everybody else was with us, but we all understand that Brad Pitt, Roy Clifford, was clearly lying during his psych evals, right? Like, when he had to go and get psychological testing, he was telling the questioner exactly what they wanted to hear so that he could keep flying, which is something that I would do. I have been walking around on a broken foot since last Christmas. I got hit by a car on my walk home, and I knew nearly almost immediately that it was broken, but we were about to go home for Christmas and then on a little vacation, and then I was busy at work and I couldn't take the time to be booted because I'm probably going to have to be booted for a couple of weeks and not be on it very often. So I put it off and I put it off and I put it off, and here I am. Still haven't taken care of it. Who knows what kind of long-lasting damage I'm doing to it, but I just tell everybody I'm fine and keep going on. So I really relate to that. I mean, I also relate to the fact that you would lie to a psychologist because maybe you can't be 100% truthful with them. If you want to keep living the life that you want, maybe you have to keep some of the stuff hidden from literally everyone in your life. The Japanese have this saying about masks where they say that we all wear 3 masks. We have the mask that we show everyone in the world. We should have the mask that we show everyone that's close to us. And then we have a third mask that only we see. And I think that probably I'm more like an onion than a set of 3 masks with all the layers. But, I also sense that Brad Pitt was very much that, Roy Clifford was very much that in this movie. And I mean, I also have like a very complicated relationship with my dad. It was just like, this thing was firing on all cylinders. It was like James Gray wrote it for me, which is honestly, that's the experience I want to have coming out of the movie theater. And I really thought that we were going to have this very deep discussion about how amazing this movie was. We ended up not having that discussion. And I'm going to get back to that when everybody else is back here with us. But I mean, the frank reality of it is that this is a complicated movie. There is a little bit of biblical allegory mixed in with the father leaving and widowing the son, even though he's still alive, or widowing the wife, making the son of an orphan, even though he's still alive, and going off to find the secrets of the universe. Like, there's a lot of stuff here to unpack. And I don't know that necessarily that James Gray knew everything he was throwing in, or maybe was it accidental? I mean, that's perfectly possible. In fact, I really love when I pull stuff, or I'm like reading a script and I find something in there and I'm like, I did not even think about this when I wrote it, but clearly it was on my mind because I just pulled directly from the source material. Not plagiarism. What I mean is that like I find a theme or like an allegory and I just like work it in there. Matrix is basically, Neo is Jesus, clearly. Sorry if that's a spoiler for The Matrix from 18 years ago, but and, there's a little bit of that biblical allegory in this story, a search for everything. And the guys that I went with, I think really just missed that moment right at the end. In fact, Fernando Roberto said, where was the emotional confluence of that movie? I cannot believe he didn't see it. I mean, I clearly saw it and I was moved in the moment. Just to sit there and stare at him and say, you didn't find that moment? So, like, Tommy Lee Jones, Clifford. I think I've been calling him Roy Clifford. I think his dad's name is Clifford. It's H. Clifford something. Man, I'm dumb. Okay, so it's Roy McBride, Clifford McBride. Sorry about that. I'm not going to go back and edit it. It's late and I'm stupid sometimes. So Clifford McBride has been searching for the secrets of the universe. For those of you who didn't really understand, we can only image distant planets so well because we're so close to the sun. And the Lima project was going to go out as far out as they possibly could so that they could image these planets, exoplanets that are around other stars. Some of the images that they showed were actually planets in our own solar system, which is interesting. But nonetheless, I thought that it was just amazing. And I'm right there with Roy as he's saying, Dad, you have discovered some amazing things. And, there's that internal monologue where it's just like, he had found so many great things, but all he could focus on was the thing that wasn't there. That's him talking about himself. His dad never saw what was there with him, only what was missing with him. Roy grabs Clifford, the McBrides. See, I know what I'm talking about. Roy McBride grabs his dad and he just says, Dad, it just means all we have is each other. That was the emotional culmination. That's what he was looking for. That's what he wanted. He'd been saying the entire trip how he couldn't connect with another human being and he felt so alone and he just wanted things. And in that moment, he realized that without something more out there, you have to focus on the things that you have right next to you. And I think that was blown away. I cannot wait to see this again. I haven't bought a DVD in maybe a decade. I might buy this on DVD just to make sure I always have it. Because I always worry that the digital downloads that you get, they can just take that back anytime they want, right? Apple, I don't trust that. Google, I love everything Google, but I don't trust that I'll actually have that forever. And DVD is forever. So long as there's power in a TV, right? I feel like a few weeks from now, and if I watch it again, if I can find it on streaming, I'm just gonna have that moment again and just live through it and maybe be able to digest it a little better when I can pause it and kind of think things through. But super philosophical. And I do want to get to some of the philosophical stuff. So let's go ahead and bring everyone back in without any spoilers from here on out right now. So obviously, I don't want to call my friends dumb. Sometimes they are very dumb. I hang out with dumb people. Or it could be that I'm so smart that everyone seems dumb. But I promised I wasn't going to be pretentious anymore. So I won't explore that line of thinking. Nonetheless, I was really surprised when both Corey and Roberto said they didn't enjoy the movie. I will say and admit, as we kind of close in on the ending here, that it was a slow plotting movie. It is the kind of movie that you really got to have patience for. There are some people who love firecrackers, and there are some people who like to build a bonfire. One is you light, you throw, and it boom. And the other one is you take several hours to collect just the right stuff. You build it a very certain way, and slowly but surely the fire comes, and it'll last a lot longer. I am a fan of the slow burn, so long as you can keep me in the story. They kept me in the story. It's Rob in space, after all, right? So I'm torn, and this is what I am torn about. I absolutely love this movie, and everyone I talked to absolutely hated it. Everyone said it could have been 30, 40, 50 minutes shorter. It was 2 hours and 3 minutes. So it's hard for me because I want to be honest and I want to tell you how I felt about a movie. And this movie, in my opinion, delivered on everything that it promised. The movie is called To the Stars. They went to the stars. That's not a spoiler. You see them in space, right? So it's a fantastic cast giving a fantastic performance, and the visuals are amazing. It's a quiet movie. It's a lot like Gravity. Gravity is a way better example because it's in space. So they don't have sound unless sound is transmitted physically, which apparently a lot of people don't like. They don't like the quiet. They don't like just being quiet with themselves, which is not surprising based on a lot of people that I know. But, so if I am looking at myself watching this video, I am telling you, Rob, go see it. One thumb way up. Go see it. You're going to love it. Nearly everyone else. You could probably skip it. This is the first time that I can say almost without a doubt that you are not going to enjoy this movie. Unless you enjoy slow plotting movies, it's Gravity, but without the sense of danger. It is Castaway. Castaway is a really good example where it just kind of slowly develops. Corey doesn't like Castaway either. Starting to come together in my head there. I'm putting together a theory. But it's a lot like Castaway in space, but without a lot of the adventure. Now, there are moments that are super exciting, and there's a lot of moments that you get really into the story and the movie and the adventure. But for the most part, it is a lot of voiceover. It's a lot of being inside Roy McBride's head. It's a lot of seemingly disconnected things that bring him forward in the story. It's a lot like real life in that way. That you find yourself a place, and if you try to think back on how you got there, you're not 100% sure because it's not that exciting. And then, there are moments of insane excitement. Again, it sucks because I loved this movie, and I would want to go see it again. I am really sad that I waited so long to see it. For most of you out there, unless you are exactly like me, this one's going to be a skip. Don't worry about it. Catch it on demand. if you want. I will say that this should be an early bail movie. If you get through the first 20 or 30 minutes, maybe not even that, 15 or 20 minutes, and you are not finding it interesting at all, don't stick it out, because it's not going to change. It's going to be the same movie throughout. But, maybe you want to get to know your buddy Rob a little better and find out what's going on up here. Well, this is a good way to do it. And maybe ask yourself, how would I survive 79 days alone in space? I think I would do really well. I'm also probably a really good candidate for solitary confinement. If you gave me some books and some paper, I'd be fine in solitary. Not everybody would survive. But yeah, so I'm really good for deep space travel. So if anybody knows Elon Musk, let him know. I'm super interested. And there you have it, yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Reviews in the books. I want to say up front, a big thank you to all my patrons. It is you that keeps me going right now. Your support, your kind words, the messages you send, the fact that I see you checking out all this stuff early. I could not do this without you. If you want to become one of the patrons, the easiest way to do that is to go to patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek. That's patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek. And you can sign up for as little as $1 a month. You get early access to a bunch of stuff. You get some special stuff that nobody gets to see. I'm going to get rolling on some new projects very shortly. You're not going to want to miss any of that stuff. And the patrons are going to get it first. So make sure you go to patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek to check it out. Of course, you can find me on all your social media network, Robert N. Cheek. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Snapchat, Vero. I'm on TikTok. Go find me on TikTok. I'm making some really funny stuff over there. So TIKTOK. My account, of course, is Robert N. Cheek. Go check me out over there. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. We are going to be back again very soon with another review. I'm aiming to do 2 a week. Seen a lot of movies. I really want to share those with you and get some reviews out. I'm also going to go into the back catalog. You're not going to want to miss a minute of that. And of course, if you can't get enough Rob in your life, if it's not enough with the podcast, with the movie reviews, with me on social media, you can find me every Tuesday at otheanthem.com. On the Oh the Anthem podcast, we talk about news, we talk about sports, we talk about the city of Baltimore and the city of Los Angeles, the 2 cities that I love so very much. You can find more information about that at otheanthem.com. We also are on YouTube and at Oh the Anthem on all your social networks. So, I don't really have a lot more to say than that. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll have another episode coming up very, very soon. If you like what you heard here, make sure you click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know. You can always give me a call and have a message. This show is going to be available in podcast form. You can find it at anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews. And on Anchor, you can actually leave a voicemail, and I'll include those in the podcast version of the show. So go on over to anchor.fm/Robert N. Cheek/message and leave me a message to get included in the podcast. Until next time, I'm looking forward to going to another movie and being able to share it with you. I hope you join me then. Have a great week, everybody.